Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's presentation. I'm excited to take you through the topic titled Summary by Class Cloud. This presentation focuses on Socialism in Europe and the Russian Revolution, which is part of Class 9 CBSE curriculum. We'll explore the key ideas behind socialism, its development in Europe, and the revolutionary events in Russia that shaped history. So, let's get started and dive into this fascinating period together. In this slide, we're summarizing some key themes from Class 9 CBSE, focusing on the age of social change. First, let's talk about the French Revolution of 1789. This was a pivotal moment where ideas of freedom and equality started spreading widely. These ideas challenged the traditional dominance of the aristocracy and the church, sparking a push for change across France and beyond. Now, within this revolutionary period, different political groups emerged with distinct visions. The liberals, for example, wanted religious tolerance and an elected parliament. They also emphasized individual rights, but their support for voting was based on property ownership, so it wasn't universal suffrage. Radicals took things further. They supported majority rule and women's suffrage, advocating for more inclusive participation. They opposed the privileges enjoyed by landowners and factory owners, aiming for a more equal society. Conservatives, on the other hand, preferred a slower pace of change. They valued traditions and accepted limited reforms after the revolution, wanting to maintain stability while gradually adapting to new ideas. Moving beyond France, we see the rise of socialism in Europe, which aimed to address social inequalities through collective ownership and economic reforms. This movement was closely linked to the Russian Revolution, which brought about a radical change in government and society. Overall, these movements reflect the broader theme of social change during this period, challenging old structures, pushing for rights and equality, and shaping modern nation-states. Now let's take a closer look at Class 9 CBSE, specifically the section on industrial society and social change. As industrialization progressed, it led to the creation of new cities, the rise of factories, and the expansion of railways. These developments transformed the way people lived and worked. However, along with these advancements, there were significant problems that arose. Workers often faced long working hours, low wages, and poor housing conditions. Sanitation was a major issue, and unemployment was also widespread. In response to these issues, liberals and radicals began pushing for reforms to improve workers' rights and social conditions. Workers themselves started rallying around these reform movements, seeking better treatment and fairer conditions. At the same time, nationalist leaders like Giuseppe Mazzini inspired revolutions that aimed for equal rights and national independence. This period also saw the rise of socialism across Europe, advocating for social ownership and equality. The Russian Revolution was a key event in this context, representing a radical shift towards socialist ideas. All these points connect to the broader theme of how industrialization and social change have shaped modern society, highlighting both the challenges and the movements for reform that emerged in response. Now let's take a closer look at Class 9 CBSE, the coming of socialism. Socialists opposed private property because they believed it was the root of inequality and unfairness in society. For example, Robert Owen, one of the early socialists, tried to create a cooperative community called New Harmony in the USA, where people would work and share resources collectively. Louis Blanc, another thinker, wanted the government to support cooperatives, helping workers to organize and improve their lives. Then we have Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, who took a more radical stance. They described industrial society as capitalist, meaning it was driven by private ownership and profit. They argued that workers should overthrow this system and establish a communist society where everything is owned collectively and wealth is shared more equally. This idea of socialism spread across Europe and even influenced the Russian Revolution, which aimed to implement these principles on a larger scale. Overall, these thinkers and movements marked a significant shift in how people thought about property, society, and the role of government in creating fairness. Now, let's take a closer look at the spread of socialism by the 1870s. During this period, socialist ideas started to spread rapidly across Europe, gaining ground among workers and intellectuals alike. To coordinate these efforts, the Second International was formed, which served as a platform for socialist parties and movements across different countries. At this time, we also see the emergence of important political parties, such as the Labour Party in Britain and the Socialist Party in France. These parties played a crucial role in advocating for workers' rights and socialist principles. However, it's important to note that, before 1914, socialists mainly influenced laws and policies rather than directly forming governments themselves. This period set the stage for significant changes, including the Russian Revolution, which would have a profound impact on socialism in Europe and beyond. The ideas and movements that developed during this time were shaping the political landscape and pushing for social and economic reforms, connecting to the broader theme of how revolutionary ideas influenced modern history. Let's take a closer look at Class 9 CBSE and the Russian Revolution. As you can see, Tsar Nicholas II ruled a vast empire that included Finland, Poland, Ukraine, and Central Asia. The economy was primarily based on agriculture, with about 85% of the population being peasants. Industry was quite limited and mostly concentrated in St. Petersburg and Moscow. When it comes to workers, they were divided by skill levels, and women often earned less than men. Strikes were quite common, reflecting their dissatisfaction. The peasants, on the other hand, were eager for land redistribution and frequently revolted against landlords to gain more land and better living conditions. In terms of political parties, the socialist revolutionaries focused mainly on representing peasant interests, while the Social Democrats, inspired by Marx, split into two factions: the Bolsheviks, led by Lenin, and the Mensheviks. This context is crucial because it shows how social and economic tensions fueled the revolutionary movement. The Russian Revolution was not just about overthrowing a ruler. It was driven by these deep-rooted issues of land, labor, and political ideology, which also connects to the broader theme of socialism spreading across Europe and inspiring revolutionary change. Now, let's move on to Class 9 CBSE and talk about the 1905 revolution in Russia. This was a time of rising unrest, and several factors contributed to the outbreak of this revolutionary movement. One of the main triggers was the widespread dissatisfaction caused by rising prices, declining wages, and the dismissal of workers, which created a lot of anger among the common people. A key event to remember is Bloody Sunday in 1905, when a peaceful protest was attacked by police forces, resulting in over 100 people being killed. This brutal incident shocked the nation and intensified the demand for change. The protesters were calling for a constitution, civil liberties, better wages, and shorter working hours, all of which highlighted the people's desire for more rights and fairness. In response to growing protests, the Tsar established the Duma, which was a form of parliament. However, he restricted its powers, meaning it had limited influence and could not truly challenge his authority. This only fueled the frustration among the people, who felt their demands were being ignored. Moving into the broader context, World War I had a profound impact on Russia. Between 1914 and 1916, Russia faced heavy military defeats and suffered around 7 million casualties. The war also caused severe food shortages and led to the breakdown of industries, worsening the hardships for ordinary Russians. The Tsar's poor management during this period, combined with the unpopularity of Tsarina Alexandra, who was seen as being out of touch and influenced by Rasputin, led to a significant loss of support for the monarchy. This set the stage for the revolutionary upheaval that was to follow. Finally, it's important to connect these events to the wider European context. The spread of socialism across Europe inspired many Russians, and the ideas of equality and workers' rights gained traction. All of these factors, economic hardship, political repression, military failures, and revolutionary ideas, came together to ignite the Russian Revolution, transforming the course of history. Now, let's take a look at some key events from Class 9, CBSE, related to the February Revolution of 1917. This was a pivotal moment in Russian history. It started with widespread strikes, food riots, and even a mutiny of soldiers, reflecting the deep unrest among the people and the military. As a result of this turmoil, the Tsar abdicated the throne on the 2nd of March, 1917, effectively ending centuries of monarchical rule. Following this, a provisional government was formed to take charge, but at the same time, Soviets, which were workers' councils, began to gain significant influence. These Soviets represented the voice of the workers and soldiers and played a crucial role in shaping the revolutionary movement. A key figure during this period was Lenin, who issued his April Theses. His main ideas were to end Russia's involvement in the war, transfer land to the peasants, and nationalize banks. These points were aimed at addressing the needs of the working class and peasants, and they laid the groundwork for the socialist revolution. This entire sequence of events connects to the broader theme of socialism in Europe and how the Russian Revolution acted as a catalyst for change, inspiring socialist movements across the continent. It's important to see how internal unrest and revolutionary ideas collided to reshape Russia and influence global politics. Today, let's look at some key events from Class 9 CBSE, focusing on the October Revolution of 1917. This was a pivotal moment in history when the Bolsheviks, led by Vladimir Lenin, seized power on October 24th. They attacked the Winter Palace, which was the seat of the provisional government, and successfully overthrew it. This marked the beginning of a new era, as Russia transitioned into a one-party communist state under Bolshevik control. This revolution wasn't just a local event. It had a profound impact on socialism across Europe and influenced global political movements. It demonstrated how revolutionary ideas could lead to radical change and inspired many socialist movements worldwide. In the broader context of our presentation, the October Revolution highlights the power of revolutionary change and the importance of political ideologies in shaping history. It shows how a revolutionary movement can fundamentally transform a country's political landscape and influence international dynamics. Now, let's look at the changes that took place after October under Class 9 CBSE. First, industry and banks were nationalized, meaning they were taken over by the government to serve the public interest. Land was declared social property, which meant it was no longer privately owned, but belonged to everyone. Large houses were redistributed to address inequality. The Bolshevik Party, which led the revolution, was renamed the Communist Party to reflect its new ideology. Additionally, the secret police, known as Cheka, was used to suppress opposition and maintain control. During the Civil War from 1918 to 1920, there were three main groups: the Reds, who were the Bolsheviks, the Whites, who supported the Tsar or were anti-Bolshevik, and the Greens, representing socialist revolutionaries. Foreign powers also intervened, trying to support the Whites or undermine the Bolsheviks, but ultimately the Reds emerged victorious. This victory led to the formation of the USSR in 1922. Connecting this to the broader theme, the Russian Revolution was a pivotal event that inspired socialist movements across Europe. The establishment of socialism in Russia showed that radical change was possible, even in the face of foreign intervention and civil conflict. It marked a significant turning point in world history and the spread of socialist ideas. So, moving on to slide 11, let's talk about Class 9 CBSE's focus on socialist society and Stalin's collectivization. During this period, the five-year plans played a crucial role. They were basically a form of centralized planning aimed at rapid industrial growth, which the Soviet Union believed was essential for development. In 1929, Stalin introduced collectivization, which meant peasants were forced to give up their individual farms and join collective farms, called kolkhoz. The idea was to increase agricultural productivity and support industrialization. However, this process faced strong resistance from peasants, who often destroyed livestock and other resources rather than give them up. This resistance led to a severe famine between 1930 and 1933, causing the deaths of around 4 million people. The government responded with harsh punishments, including deportations and executions, which highlights the brutal methods used to enforce these policies. Now, on the global influence front, the Soviet Union inspired communist parties around the world. The Communist International, or Comintern, founded in 1919, was an international socialist organization that aimed to promote communism globally. It attracted many Indian leaders like Nehru, Tagore, and Shaukat Usmani, who looked to the USSR as a model. While the USSR did emerge as a global power, it was also criticized for its repression and authoritarian methods. So, this period was significant not just for its internal policies, but also for its impact on global politics, especially within socialist and communist movements. All of this ties back to the broader theme of how revolutionary ideas and policies shaped societies, both within the Soviet Union and around the world. Now, let's look at some key takeaways from Class 9, CBSE related to social and political changes. First, the ideas of liberals, radicals, and conservatives represented different visions of how society should change. Liberals generally wanted reforms within the existing system, radicals pushed for more rapid and radical change, and conservatives aimed to preserve traditional structures. When we talk about socialism, we're referring to ideas of collective ownership and equality. Marx's vision of a communist society was central here, advocating for the abolition of private property and a classless society. The Russian Revolution is a crucial event in this context. It happened in two main parts: the February Revolution, which ended the rule of the Tsar, and the October Revolution, when the Bolsheviks took power. This revolution had a profound impact because the USSR became the first socialist state in the world. It also influenced global politics, inspiring many other movements and revolutions. Finally, socialism spread beyond Russia into Europe, shaping ideas about equality and state ownership across the continent. The Russian Revolution was a turning point that connected these broader themes of change, revolution, and the push for social justice that we've been exploring in this presentation. Now, on this final slide, I want to highlight how we are providing academic tutorial services across a wide range of student levels. We cater to primary classes, intermediate, and senior secondary students, specifically those following the CBSE board, as well as other relevant boards across India. Our goal is to support students through both offline and online modes, ensuring accessibility and flexibility. We understand that each student's learning journey is unique, and our class cloud is designed to elevate that journey, making it more engaging and effective. Whether it's through in-person classes or virtual sessions, we're committed to helping students excel academically. This slide really ties together our overall theme of enhancing learning experiences with innovative, accessible, and tailored support. The idea is to make high-quality education available to everyone, no matter where they are or what board they're studying under.